I probably got letters from her every other day. She was great about writing. Me, not quite so good, but she tells me she's still got all the letters that I did write. I haven't seen them. When I contacted her and asked her to send some stuff, she really turned it into a mission, and it is boxes after boxes after boxes of stuff that came in. But we desperately needed stuff like that for the infants, even, and small kids. And I had grown up in a foster home, so I had a lot of experience taking care of younger kids.
Okay.
And so I was a real asset there, being able to take these little, I mean, we had preemies that were 2 pounds and stuff like that. I kept one alive that wouldn't have a prayer otherwise. And I actually ended up keeping her in my room. I'd get off work and pack her back with me, and because it was almost feeding her with an eyedropper, like a little bird, but she lived. And rather than send her back to the orphanage, we dummied up a death certificate, and I gave her to a Vietnamese officer's wife that wanted a kid. And I knew she had a chance there, and she'd probably die in the orphanage, so we got him to sign a death certificate and snuck her out and,
Oh my gosh.
and got away with it. I kept thinking we were going to get caught doing that. We did that more than once, but those little kids were something else, pretty resilient. Didn't take much for them to get smiles out of them, get them laughing, make them happy. You tend to remember the fun things and the bright spots, things like that's what, even after all these years, comes back. The parties, and we did have some good ones. We were able to we could go out anywhere, and some of the people actually had apartments, and we could get completely away from the military part of it. We weren't supposed to have civilian clothes, but we did. And you could push all that aside and dance and drink a few beers. We had somebody to dance with. So, but we had USO shows that came through. Well, you hear about Bob Hopes and all of the gals that did come, the Gold Diggers and Dean Martin and his bunch. But there were Vietnamese gals that could get up there and sing country and western music like they'd grown up with, and they couldn't speak a word of English, but they could mimic it. And it was really a treat to get anything like that, you know, because we were all so far from home, homesick. That part I remember. And then occasionally something comes back that, because you couldn't be there without seeing some of the horrors of it too. Some of them, like just that part of it, being the soldier, getting in the thick of it. But probably 8 out of 10 of us were support people anyway. The guys actually on the front lines, and I don't envy some of the stuff they went through. And but that's the military way. You don't ask why. You learn to take orders, and if that's what they tell you to do, you do it. Toward the end, more and more guys got to questioning any of it because we weren't making the progress that should have been made, and that's where some of them got to be dangerous too, because if they got a dumb order, they didn't always follow it. There wasn't news coming in except what you could pick up from the guys that flew in and out, and there was, you know, something going here or there, but we didn't see a big picture. We weren't looking at it. We were focused on our own little job and what our part in it was, and making sure we didn't drop the ball. And you know, we tried to get as many of those guys back home as we could. Some of them came back pretty screwed up, pretty messed up. We had one ward at the hospital that nobody ever left alive. But they were pretty rough when we got them too. So when you get traumatic amputations, limbs blown off, that kind of stuff, it just shuts down the system. But, so we had everything we needed there. We had a very, very good OR, good surgeons. All the doctors were young. They were my age or 6, 8 years older. They'd been through medical school. But I was one of the older corpsmen there because I'd had 4 years break between high school and When my dad went into the Army, he was actually in the horse-drawn artillery. They were pulling cannons with horses in 1937. Then he went through World War II in the Aleutian Islands. And that's, my dad died about 8 years ago, but after he did, I read some stuff on the Aleutians, and I hadn't realized how horrible that was out there. But that was part of the U.S. was actually occupied for a while. She was just glad I was home. I was home. I said, it's over. I don't want to talk about it ever again. And I stuffed what was left of my uniform in the bottom of a duffel bag and almost threw it away several times, but I never could make myself do it. And here a couple of years ago, I got it out. I had it cleaned, pressed, put it on a hanger, put my medals on it, and I wear it occasionally to one of the ceremonies. And
So it still fits?
yeah, amazing. It's a little tight, but I can still get it on. So he was bad, and you know, even 30 years later, it's still impacted us. But what I've seen positive come out of it is you see the guys coming home from Iraq and Afghanistan now. There's always somebody at the airport to meet them. You're familiar with Patriot Guard riders?
Oh, yeah.
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 Most of those guys are Vietnam vets. Yeah, I've ridden with them some, attended some events, not to probably the extent that some of them have, but they're going to make sure that never happens to another generation of servicemen. Until I got involved with Jim Duty. When I first found out he was trying to build a Vietnam War memorial here, I kind of knew who he was, and I got in touch with him and I said, if you need some help, let me know. I will help do that. And I really got involved. And it was a fantastic process to be involved in. I met guys here that were Vietnam vets that I didn't even know had served. We came back, we weren't welcome back, and so you just pushed it away. I didn't have a hat that said U.S. Army on it, nothing, and it wasn't talked about. So the Vietnam War Memorial here has really been a healing process for a lot of people. It's been good for me. And in the years that we worked on that, I saw what it did to a lot of the other guys that came back. And if you go over and sit around sometime around the memorial, you'll see them come in, and sometimes it's the same guys that are there once a week. It's kind of, you know, a little. It's part of the welcome home, I guess, they never got. It's had a terrific positive impact on a lot of vets. My name and my two brothers' names are on there all in one line. We're on the first one that went up. My oldest brother was coming back from Vietnam. When I went over, my younger brother was in the Marine Corps, but he went in about the time it winded down. He didn't have to go. I'm really glad for that. There's quite a story in that memorial over there. For a while, I had that helicopter sitting here in my yard on a trailer.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Was it here?
We needed a place to store it, and I just bring it out. We'll park it over in the driveway. I was one of the first ones here to welcome it, and since we got it up, the tail rotors come off twice. Some of that stuff was not fabricated as well. The main rotor broke loose. We were afraid it was going to tear the whole thing down. So I've been up on top of it where it sits, and I get to do all the fabrication and repair work. I think we got it pretty well fixed now. It's going to be up there for a long time, but it's just pretty neat. Every time I go by, I'm really proud of it.